Hello there, everybody, and especially Steve Wolfbrand. Hi, Steve. How are you? And welcome. Um, okay, my usual helpers, at least one of them, specifically Greg Mallard, um, have not been well for a while, and so he will not be here tonight. I expect that Dee Pierce will be able to join in just a few minutes as she becomes disoccupied with her own show. Uh, well, I'm glad to hear you're doing okay, Steve. I'm doing okay too. Oh, Dee needs the link. I must have forgotten to invite her today, so I will take care of that right now. Sometimes there are glitches. As Dee says, she needs the link. So now she has it, and I will momentarily expect her then. Okay, this is again a show about fundraising by three members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Steve says, smash the like button. Thank you, Steve. And here's Dee in the stream now.
Yes, hello everybody.
Hello, this is Dee Pierce, the co-host of Around the World with Brandy and Dee.
Yes, I'm very happy to be here.
And my good friend.
Yes.
Okay, so as I was saying, this show is about the fundraising activities. Hey, Kay, how you doing? Of Kweisi MFume, okay, of NAACP fame, and also a congressman from, I believe it's the 2nd District, okay, of Maryland. And Gwen Moore, who's a congresswoman from Wisconsin. And finally, we'll be covering Jerry Nadler, Gerald Nadler from New York, a congressman for quite a while now. I'm glad you're doing okay, Kay. And both Dee and I are doing pretty well, I think. Let us start with Kweisi MFume. Hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. This is for the year 2022, this particular election. He raised, okay, I have to start by saying, this is a safe Maryland district. It's very, very blue. There was nobody really running against him of note. There was no contest. He raised $595,635. He spent $305,309. He ended with cash on hand of $591,429. That was as of December 31st, 2022. When I click on see all candidates in this race, we do not have data for the following candidates: Scott M. Collier, Republican, and Amber Ivy, who is an independent. Anyway, Kweisi MFume got 82% of the vote, okay, in this election. I gave you the money raised and money spent and his cash on hand at the end of the period. Small individual contributions less than $200, less than or equal to $200, amounted to 14,400. Large individual contributions amounted to greater than 200, in other words, amounted to 232,861. That was 39.09% of the total he raised. His PAC contributions were 351,074. That was 58.94% of what he raised. Then there's a candidate self-financing category, that was zero. And an other category, that was minus $2,699. That was negative, by the way. And it was negative 0.45% of the contributions total. Obviously, he's disqualified by his PAC contributions, which were the majority of his contributions, and his large individual contributions, because the litmus test excludes people who are taking PAC money and excludes people who are taking money from wealthy individuals. Obviously, Kweisi MFume was doing that. And the quality of his disclosure was he made full disclosure of 139,064 of his contributions, and that was 95.8% of what he disclosed. His incomplete disclosures were 0%, and he made no disclosure of $6,100. In other words, he disclosed he received the $6,100, but he didn't say where that came from. That was 4.2% of his total disclosures. Let's see if we can get a little bit of other information here from contributors. Now, his top contributors the American Israel Public Affairs Committee gave him 10,000. The American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees gave him 10,000. American Federation of Teachers gave him 10,000. Home Depot gave him 10,000. The Laborers Union gave him 10,000. The National Beer Wholesale Association gave him 10,000. National Education Association gave him 10,000. Teamsters Union gave him 10,000. The Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union gave him 10,000. National Association of Retailers gave him, of Realtors gave him 9,000. Career Communications Group gave him 8,700. The American Association for Justice gave him $7,500. Sheet metal unions gave him $7,500. Also, Falcon Murphy gave him $7,000. American Council of Engineering Companies gave him $6,000. Comcast gave him $6,000. G.S. Proctor and Associate gave him $6,000. These are small amounts, K, of money. There is no data here for individual donors, even though he had a lot of donors that gave more than $250. There's a note here that says, these tables list the top donors to candidates in the 2020 and 2022 House election cycle. The organizations themselves did not donate. Rather, the money came from the organization's PACs, their individual members or employees or owners, and those individuals' immediate families. Organization totals include subsidiaries and affiliates. Well, there are no individual members or employees who are disclosed here. It all appears to be PACs. Okay, so.
That tells you he's a Pac-Man.
Yes, he's not a big PAC man. He's a big PAC man from the standpoint of the percentage of his contributions that were from PACs. But he's not a big fundraiser at all. I mean, the average fundraising for a congressman was $3.5 million in 2022. And he spent only $305,000. So his district is so locked up and there's so little competition that he doesn't have to spend much, okay, or raise much. Okay, this is industries, top industries. There's a note here that says, most members of Congress get the bulk of their campaign contributions from two main sources: the industries that make up the economic base of their home district and the Washington-based interest groups that pay more attention to the members' committee assignments in Congress. In addition, most Democrats receive substantial sums from labor unions. From this table, you can get a flavor of which of the top industries giving to the candidates running for Congress in your district. Do the industries match your local economy, or are they more Washington-based? If the latter, the candidate may have divided loyalties on issues where the interests of their cash constituents conflict with those of the voters who elected them. That was an interesting note from Open Secrets, I thought. Public sector unions gave Kweisi MFume $37,000. The real estate industry gave him $34,583. Retired people gave him $25,301. From other candidates we've talked about, I think you can see that's a small amount from the retired sector. Building trade unions, $24,000. Transportation unions, $17,300. Lawyers and law firms, $17,050. Lobbyists, $16,150. Industrial unions, $13,000. Pro-Israel, $10,500. Pharmaceuticals, health products, $10,400. Insurance, $9,500. And the crop production and basic processing, $9,500. My Democratic liberal groups 9,000, retail sales 9,000, printing and publishing 8,700, health professionals 8,650. These are all very small contributions compared to what other people raise. Okay, I think that Kweisi MFume feels so little threatened that he doesn't even attempt to raise very much from folks. He probably generally just asks these groups to give 10,000. There are some that give more, not too many, and there are some that give a little less. But the amounts that he raises are certainly enough to fund his campaign.
Right. And he won with what, 82% of the vote? You said?
82.0% of the vote.
Yes. So substantial win.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. These are not competitive races at all. Okay. If you look at sector comparisons, agribusiness 11,500, communications electronics 25,700, energy natural resources. I'm just well, I shouldn't even read that. So that's not very substantial. He gets 85,933 from the fire sector, finance, insurance, and real estate. That is 30,050 from the healthcare industry. That's also substantial in terms of the kinds of contributions he gets. 33,200 from the lawyers and the lobbyists. 103,000 from labor. 29,700 from business of a miscellaneous sort.
Excuse me, Kay just said Joe is not showing charts tonight, so I guess she likes the charts.
I'm not showing charts. I'm sorry, Kay. Thank you for reminding me. I will be happy to show the charts. And I will be happy to start with this chart. So there we go. You see me reading from the chart that gives you the amounts of money he received from each of the sectors. I haven't been reading out the sectors that are giving small amounts of money, generally speaking, concentrating on the larger contributing sectors like communications, electronics, 25,700, fire, 85,933. The labor sector was over 100,000. The health sector, 30,050. Lawyers and lobbyists, 33,200. His largest sector was labor. Ideology, single issue sector, 28,362. And then there are other sectors lumped together totaling 43,326. So next we can look at PAC totals. Okay. Um, $172.9K from business, 145K from labor, 28.5K from the audiological sector, and from the other sector he got zero. So that's the breakdown of PAC funding by sector. To read the numbers again, 172,900 from business packs, 145,000 from labor packs, 28,512 from the ideological packs. As we saw before, the majority of his contributions came from packs. Okay, here's the outside spending. I don't know if this is showing up on the screen.
No, I don't see it on the screen.
You don't see it on the screen. Hang on a second. I can probably find it.
Okay, now you're up.
Okay, this is the outside spending. Okay, you can see that some group outside of his campaign, it could be a PAC, could be a super PAC, spent $342 in support of him. There was no money spent by an outside group that opposed him. Oh, here's a breakdown of the outside stuff. The Democratic State Central Committee in Maryland, and that's a PAC, spent money not in collaboration with the campaign, in other words, just by themselves. Okay, the Democratic State Central Committee in Maryland gave him $240. The NEA, that's National Education Association Advocacy Fund, that's a super PAC, gave him $92. And the Sierra Club, Independent Action Super PAC, gave him $10. So that's how you arrive at the $342 in outside money that he got. So to summarize what's gone on here, he raised very little money for his campaign. It was highly non-competitive. It was a very easy race for him. He won with 82.0%. But a majority of his money came from PACs. Okay, we saw that there were no individuals that were mentioned. Okay, there was no breakdown of wealthy individuals. Oh, we did have the large individuals listed on the candidates page. We have the source of funds from his contributions. I read this before. 14,400 from small individuals. That was 2.42% of his contributions. Large individual contributions greater than 200, 232,861, 39%. But the PAC contributions, 351,074, that was almost 59% of his contributions. So, fairly wealthy individuals and PACs, okay, accounted for pretty much 98% of the contributions for his campaign. So even though he did not raise a lot of money, he still violated the formula. So let's go on to the next candidate. We have Gwen Moore of Wisconsin. Let me share her. It's the Wisconsin Congressional District 4 2022 race. And the candidate, was Gwen Moore. There was no data on the Republican candidate, Tim Rogers, and Robert Raymond was the independent candidate. There's no data on him. We just look at the bottom of this. Outside spending on candidates. The outside spending on Gwen Moore was $18 in support of her. There was nothing in opposition to her. The Republican, Tim Rogers, had $8 spent by independent groups in opposition to him. I wonder what that was like. $8. Anyway, Gwen Moore raised, first of all, she was the incumbent and she was also the winner. She raised $1,207,905. She spent $1,219,555. She had cash on hand at the end of $22,350. Let us see if we can get some information on what percent of the vote she got. I think it's in this section on candidates. She was the winner with 75.4% of the vote. Okay, let's make sure I'm showing this now. Yeah, it's showing. Good. Small individual contributions, less than 200. $38,291. Large individual contributions, $302,896. That was 25.08% of what she got. And then there was PAC contributions. 71.68% of her contributions were from PACs. So she was clearly a PAC lady and someone who was raising a lot of large individual contributions, but very little in small individual contributions. So she violated the litmus test in two areas: taking money from wealthy individuals and taking money from PACs. And she was taking really big money from PACs. Let's see, we can find out about the contributors. Rock Holdings gave her $25,800. Northwestern Mutual gave her $17,900. American Council of Life Insurers gave her $12,900. And CUNA Mutual Group, that's Credit Union National Association, gave her $11,400. Intrafi Network gave her $11,400. The Carlyle Group gave her $11,000. I wonder why. The Carlyle Group is a favorite of the Bushies. Century Insurance, 11,000. PricewaterhouseCooper, 10,250. PricewaterhouseCoopers, I should say. Sheet Metal Air Rail Transport Union, 10,000. So in other words, lots of money coming from PACs and small contributions. See, widely distributed, but contributors. Let's go to the industries. The insurance industry gave her 180,304. Securities and investment, 100,550. Casinos and gambling, 76,875. 61,550 from real estate, 39,400 from commercial banks, 38,000 from public sector unions, 28,000 from accountants, 27,000 from air transport, 23,692 from retired people, lawyers and law firms, 21,154, industrial unions, 21,000, retail sales, 18,500, pharmaceuticals and health products, 16,900, building trade unions, 16,000, credit unions, 16,000. Also miscellaneous, manufacturing, distributing, 11,500. Education, 11,370. Miscellaneous unions, 11,000. Electric utilities, 11,000, 10,500 from finance credit companies, and 10,500 from health professionals. So those are the top industries, sectors, sector totals. From agribusiness, 2,000. Communication electronics, 27,584. Construction, 2,500. 8,000 defense, 12,000 energy national resources, 445,804 from finance, insurance, and real estate. How can that possibly be progressive? Health, 43,800. Lawyers and law firms, lawyers and lobbyists, $30,404. Transportation, $35,250. Miscellaneous business, $118,510. From labor, $93,000. Ideology, single issue, 27,801. And the other category, 43,567. So our biggest categories are labor, 93,000. Miscellaneous business, 118,000. And the fire sector, 445,804. So that's where she concentrates, obviously. Let's get to PACs. Look at that breakdown. From business PACs, $661.7 thousand. Labor PACs, $139,000. Ideological PACs, $38,200. And 2K from other folks, 2,000 from other folks. So she was very popular with business PACs, somewhat popular with labor PACs, and relatively small contributions from the ideological PACs. Even though she claims to be a progressive, she's clearly a representative of business more than anything else. I'll look again at outside spending, if I can get there. Here we go. Here we go. Outside spending was $18 in support, of Gwen Moore, and $8 in opposition to Tim Rogers. Outside spending was clearly not a factor in this race at all. So Gwen Moore is excluded, took a lot of money from rich people, and she took a relatively small amount of money from her small contributors and a huge amount of money from the PACs. So she's disqualified on 2 counts. She fails the litmus test. And you only got to fail it on 1 count in order to be a target of the litmus test. Here's an interesting guy, specifically Jerry Nadler. Now let me share Jerry Nadler for you. Okay, Jerry Nadler's interesting because he's the head of the Judiciary Committee. He has a sharp mind for the law, in general. He's been a congressman forever, since the 90s. He's been one of the more lefty congressmen over the years, actually. During the debt ceiling crisis of 2011, he was the only congressman to suggest the use of the platinum coin, the $1 trillion coin, to settle the debt ceiling crisis.
Yeah.
He was the only congressman smart enough to see the potential of the $1 trillion coin. He was opposed by 2 people this time around. He was the incumbent. He raised $2.2 million, spent $2.7 million. His cash on hand was $14,724. Not a lot to go into the next race with. His leading opponent was a guy by the name of Mikhail Itkis, which is a Russian name, seems to me. He was an independent candidate, raised $93,786, spent $91,554, ended the campaign with $2,232. And then there was a guy by the name of Mike Zumbluskis. He was the Republican. He raised only $19,177. He spent $16,056, and he ended up with negative cash on hand, minus $3,035. These numbers were as of December 31st, 2022. There was no date on another candidate by the name of Gil Obler, Obler. Outside spending by candidate Carolyn Maloney, who ran against Jerry Nadler in the primary, got $8 in support of her from outside spending, and 260,000 opposing her from outside spending. She was an incumbent congresswoman. What happened is the reapportionment of the district pitted her against Jerry Nadler, and she lost the primary, and as a result is now out of Congress. Suraj Patel got $172,338 in outside spending in support of his candidacy. Okay, Jerry Nadler got $70,488 in support of his candidacy by outside spenders, and he got zero spending from outside spenders in opposition to him. Carlos Santiago Cano, that is Santiago-Cano, had $8 in outside spending opposed to him. So the gap in outside spending between Carolyn Maloney and Jerry Nadler, 260,000 in opposition to Carolyn Maloney, 70,000 in support of Jerry Nadler. That opened up a gap in spending by itself of some 330,000 between these two candidates. I find that to be kind of interesting. Okay, let's look at the candidates tab here, which is often illuminating. Jerry Nadler in small contributions got 132,619. That was only 5.94% of total small contributions. Large individual contributions from wealthier people, in New York, in excess of $200 each, at least, was 1,581,383. So Jerry took a lot of money from wealthier people. I suspect his district is one in which there were a lot of wealthier people. 1,581,383, 70.86% of the money he took. Also took PAC contributions of 551,000. Well, I shouldn't say, he took PAC contributions of $581,080. That was almost 25% of what he raised. Now, Carolyn Maloney probably raised a considerable amount herself. And Michael Itkis raised $540. He was self-financing. He raised almost all of his money, other than $540 from individuals, from self-financing. That's kind of interesting. Okay, Michael Zambluskis raised 28% of his financing from small individuals, 31% of his financing from large individual contributions. He didn't receive any PAC money, and 41% of his financing came from candidate self-financing. Oh, this was interesting. Okay, Rana Abdel Hamid ran in the primary as a Democrat, and she was a popular progressive candidate. Let's see what this has to say about her. She raised $926,306. That's a lot for an insurgent candidate. She spent $790,065, ended with cash on hand of $136,241. She's probably going to run for something else again soon. She had no debts at the end of that period. The sources of her funds were individual contributions, 994,294, but the breakdown they give here, there's no breakdown between small individual contributions and large individual contributions. So we do not get to see how much she got from people giving her large contributions as opposed to small contributions. She did get some PAC contributions, looks like one of $10,400. So I can't get to see from this data whether she's excluded, but we'll look at the PAC contributions, okay, in just a minute and see who it came from. But technically, she should be disqualified by that, but she lost the race anyway, so that doesn't really matter for the future. She obviously did not get a lot of PAC money. Perhaps she did not intend to take a lot, of PAC money. Let me go back here. Here is Carolyn on the Carolyn Maloney statistics. Her first election was in 1992. She was defeated in that primary, but she won a lot of elections since then. Her top industry between 1991 and 2022 was securities and investments. She raised $2.9 million from them in 31 years. So that's a lot of money, but it's over 31 years. The top contributor in between 1991 and 2022 was Goldman Sachs. $147,000. She raised, they gave statistics for her for all the time she was running. So we can't see this individual race. But she raised 25,476,273 over the whole period of her running, 31 years, and spent 25,501 836 in those 31 years. She ended with cash on hand of 1,107,186. So that's interesting, since Jerry Nadler had hardly any cash on hand. So the question is, why didn't she fully commit to this race since she lost? It's kind of interesting. They're giving us our top contributors from 1991 to 2022 there. Her top contributor was Goldman Sachs, who gave her $147,403 over the 31 years. That's not really great over 31 years. The American Association for Justice gave her almost the same, $136,000. The American Association for Justice had a PAC, and they gave her $136,000 from that PAC. Her top industries over 31 years were securities investments, $2.9 million, and real estate, $1.9 million, insurance, $1.1 million. She was really a person for the fire sector. She was a representative of the fire sector. Okay, you can see that. In lots of her campaigns, she raised more than the average. And she did that in the 2022 campaign. She raised $4 million in the 2022 campaign, and yet she lost to Jerry Nadler. Jerry raised a lot of money too. We saw, wasn't that 2.2? Something like that. But what's interesting is how much money was floating around in this particular district race. It was really floating around. Let's see what Maya Contreras raised. She raised $104,000. Well, that wasn't that much for this race. And Suraj Patel, I've heard that name before, frequently. I'm just curious to see what he raised. $1,712,000 is what he raised. He spent just a little more than that. At the end, he had only $311 cash on hand. He had debts of $487,500. He really went for broke in this campaign, but he was outspent both by Jerry Nadler and by Carolyn Maloney. Here they give the individual contributions breakdown. He raised $1.4 million in individual contributions. Doesn't tell us whether they're small or large. He also self-financed $316,670. His PAC contributions were only $5,000. If we could see the breakdown, he might be the closest candidate yet we've seen, who was a substantial candidate, but who came close to passing the litmus test. Can't say that for sure because we don't get to see uh, his individual contributions broken down. All we see is that he took a very small pack contributions of $5,000. So it looks like in this race, the action was in the primaries. They were tightly contested, and three candidates in the Democratic primary spent in excess, okay, of $1 million. So that's interesting. Jerry Nadler got 81.7% of the vote. So I hadn't realized that before. He slaughtered Carolyn Maloney. She was reasonably popular for years in New York State, but this new reapportioned district was close to, I mean, it wasn't the same as his original home district, but he was kind of the incumbent here. He spent more than he raised. He raised 2.2 million. He spent 2.7 million, and he had only 14,724 cash on hand. He fails the pack test, of course, and he fails the large individual contributions test. It isn't as plain there because we know the large individual contributions are more than $200, but we don't know how many more than $200 contributions he received. And we don't know what they averaged. But we do know that they accounted for 71% of the contributions that he raised. But I think Carolyn Maloney's fundraising was staggering. It's very surprising to find that Jerry Nadler won so handily. Of course, we don't have the figures for the primary here, so we don't know how close the primary was. We can easily find out, but I think we're almost done for the night, so we're going to leave it there. I'm curious, though. I'll check it out and tell you next time how close the primary was. So, we have again three candidates here in three races, specifically Gwen Moore, Jerry Nadler, and Kweisi MFume, who failed our litmus test. So that, okay, is where we are by now. That's not a surprise to us. That happens all the time.
Yes.
And it happens all the time largely because of the large individual contributions and the PAC money. These Congressional Progressive Caucus candidates are good at taking both PAC money and large individual contributions. So I think we have to make that clear.
Yes.
Let us briefly go through the comments.
Okay.
Steve Wolfman asked, what's wrong with Jeff? You mean with Greg Mallard? Okay, I think you mean with Greg. Okay, what's wrong with him is that he was he was working hard outdoors. It was raining, I think, 4 or 5 days ago now. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. Okay, and he appears to have caught a severe cold. Okay, and then he also had some personal problems that popped up. I know he hopes to come back tomorrow. So hopefully we will see him then. Okay, I was talking to him online today, earlier today. Steve Wolfbrand asks, I'm not familiar with him. So he says, I'll be right back. I seen Ro said on Twitter he doesn't take PAC money. Well, I think that's in contradiction with what Open Secrets says. Thank you for reminding me, Kay, to show the charts. D says Greg's stomach is hurting. Yes, evidently tonight it was. He was having that problem. That may be a hangover from the original. I think it was probably a virus he caught, but could be a hangover from that. Steve Wolfbrand says hello, Robert, and Robert says hi, everybody. I think Case Study QB is interviewing Kashama tomorrow. That's going to be funny. Steve Wolfbrand says, seems fairly clean. You mean Kashama? I bet my life that she's clean. Robert Copeman says, you know what I hate is a politician says one thing when they're running for office. Once they get into office, then does the exact opposite. We all hate that. We all hate that. That's what we're trying to get rid of in part by doing dump the corruption. Steve says, well, I have to get up to bed. Good night, everybody. Good night, Steve. Thank you for coming. And thank you for always being here. Steve says, I hope he's okay. I like him. I like him too. Greg is great. And I hope he's okay too. He's become a real favorite of Bonnie and I since he's come on these programs. And I think he's a real favorite, of Dee and Brandy as well.
Yes, he is. We love his energy. We just love Greg.
We all love Greg's energy. Okay, and we love Greg because he's right out there.
Yes, he is. He's
He is
great.
right out there, and we love that. And he's a real progressive. And I don't mean that in terms of the brand, I mean that in reality. So I think that does it for the comments. But thank you all for coming tonight. Tomorrow on Empowering Democracy, I'm going to talk about the appearance of Rick Wolf on Bree Joy Gray's program. And I want to talk about the assumptions they both appear to be making about public financing. I also want to emphasize that, I wrote a 2-volume series two books on real fiscal responsibility. Volume one of those two books was called The Progressive Give Up Formula. As you will see tomorrow night, that is exactly the formula that Bree Joy Gray and Rick Wolf seem to be following. But I'll explain that charge when I take up the appearance on my Empowering Democracy program tomorrow. So, folks, thank you again for coming. I hope you'll be here tomorrow night and bring some friends along with you.
Yes, and remember to hit Joe's the like button, and please subscribe to Joe's show. I know he appreciates that.
Yes, I do. And if you have any extra change, okay, I have my patreon.com account and also my Buy Me a Coffee account, but only if you can afford to do it. Anyway, everybody have a great time and a great day tomorrow. Kay says, okay, guys, I'm out of here. See you next time. Love you all.
Yes. Good night, everybody.
And we love you too, Kay.
Oh, yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
We love Kay.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.